Welcome back to the channel BBC Coin. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious and misunderstood coins in American history, the 1975 Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Just a small copper coin, worn by time, maybe sitting unnoticed in your pocket, your drawer, or an old jar at home. But what if I told you that some collectors are willing to pay serious money for the right version of this coin? Let's uncover the truth. The 1975 1-cent coin belongs to the famous Lincoln Memorial series, featuring the iconic face of President Abraham Lincoln on the front. This design, created by Victor David Brenner, has become one of the most recognizable images in American coin history. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of strength, unity, and history. But here's where things get interesting. Many people believe that a no mint mark coin is automatically rare and valuable. That belief has spread all over the internet, with claims that these coins can be worth $1,200 or even more. But the truth is more complicated. In 1975, the Philadelphia Mint produced billions of pennies, and at that time, they did not use a mint mark at all. That means if your 1975 penny has no mint mark, it doesn't necessarily mean it's rare. In fact, it's completely normal. Yes, you heard that right. Over 5 billion of these coins were made without any mint mark. So why are some people selling them for hundreds or even thousands of dollars? The answer lies in condition, rarity, and errors. Let's break it down. Most 1975 no mint mark pennies are only worth a few cents. In circulated condition, they may be worth just 1 cent or slightly more due to copper value. Even in uncirculated condition, many examples only sell for a few dollars. But then, there are the exceptions. And these exceptions are what fuel the hype. Some 1975 pennies in extremely high-grade condition, what collectors call mint state, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. In rare cases, top-quality coins have sold for thousands, with some reaching close to $9,000 depending on their grade and color. That's where the excitement begins. But condition alone is not the only factor. The real treasure lies in errors. Minting errors are accidental mistakes that happen during the coin production process. These mistakes can turn an ordinary coin into something incredibly rare and valuable. For the 1975 penny, some of the most valuable errors include double die obverse, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. A double die error, where the design appears slightly duplicated, can push the value into hundreds of dollars. Off-center coins, where the design is misaligned, can also bring strong premiums depending on how dramatic the error is. And then there are rare off-metal strikes. Coins struck on the wrong type of metal, which can become highly collectible. These are the kinds of coins that can realistically reach values like $1,200 or more. But here's the important part. Not every coin with no mint mark is valuable. In fact, the majority are not. There's a lot of misinformation online, with sellers listing common coins at extremely high prices, hoping someone will believe they've found a rare treasure. Even coin experts warn that most standard pennies are mass-produced and do not carry high value unless they have something truly special. So how can you tell if your 1975 penny is valuable? First, check the condition. If your coin looks shiny, with strong details and no major scratches, it could be worth more than average. Second, look closely for errors. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most talked about coins among collectors, the 1976 Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. This is not just any ordinary coin. It comes from a special year in American history. The year 1976 marked the 200th anniversary of the United States, also known as the Bicentennial Celebration. While most people remember the special quarter, half dollar, and dollar coins from that year, very few pay attention to the humble penny. But that is where the real surprise begins. The 1976 1-cent coin features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back, you will see the Lincoln Memorial, a design that was used for decades. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. But collectors know that sometimes, the most ordinary-looking coins can hold extraordinary value. Now, let's talk about the detail that gets everyone excited. The missing mint mark. If your 1976 penny has no mint mark, it means it was produced in Philadelphia. During that time, the Philadelphia Mint did not include a mint mark on pennies. Because of this, billions of these coins were made, over 4.6 billion, to be exact. So you might be thinking, how can something so common be valuable? Here is where things get interesting. Most 1976 no mint mark pennies are only worth a few cents. In fact, their basic value is often tied to their copper content, which is around 2 to 3 cents. But not all coins are created equal. The true value of a coin depends on three major factors: condition, rarity, and errors. Let's start with condition. Coins are graded on a scale from poor condition all the way up to perfect mint state. A heavily circulated 1976 penny that has scratches, fading, and wear will not be worth much. However, if you find one in pristine condition, something collectors call mint state, its value can increase dramatically. High-grade examples of the 1976 penny have been known to sell for over $1,000. In fact, extremely rare top-quality specimens have reached prices above $1,000 at auctions. This is where the idea of a $1,200 penny comes from. But condition alone is not the only factor. Let's talk about errors. The real treasure hunter's dream. Error coins are mistakes made during the minting process. These can include double strikes, off-center designs, die cracks, or missing details. While most coins are produced perfectly, a few slip through with unique flaws, making them incredibly valuable. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious and talked about coins in American history, the 1982 Liberty 1 cent with no mint mark. And by the end of this video, you might want to check every single penny in your pocket. Let's go back to the year 1982. This wasn't just any year for US coins. It was a turning point, a moment when the United States Mint made a major change that would create confusion, rarity, and opportunity all at once. Before 1982, pennies were made mostly of copper. Solid, heavy, and valuable even beyond their face value. But in 1982, everything changed. Due to rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint decided to switch from copper to zinc-coated pennies. This means that in the same year, two completely different types of pennies were produced. Some were copper, some were zinc, and that's where the mystery begins. Now let's talk about the no mint mark. If you look closely at a coin, you'll often see a small letter under the date, like D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But if there's a no letter, that means the coin was minted in Philadelphia. And here's the important part: Philadelphia coins traditionally had a no mint mark. So at first glance, a 1982 penny with no mint mark might seem completely normal. And most of them are. But not all. Because within those millions, actually billions, of coins, there are a few rare varieties that collectors are hunting like treasure. The key differences: weight, date, style, metal composition. Let's break it down. First, weight. This is the easiest way to check if your coin might be valuable. A copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams. A zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. That tiny difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and thousands of dollars. Second, the date style. In 1982, the Mint used two different date designs: large date, small date, and trust me, this matters more than you think. Some combinations are extremely rare. Now here's where things get exciting. Among all 1982 pennies, collectors are especially interested in a very specific type: the 1982 small date copper penny with no mint mark. This coin is rare because it was produced during the transition period, when copper blanks were still being used by mistake. And when you combine that with the small date design, you get a coin that could be worth serious money. Let's talk about value. Most 1982 pennies, they're worth exactly what you think: 0.1 cent, maybe a few cents more if they're in great condition. But rare varieties, that's a completely different story. Some high-grade copper small date pennies have sold for thousands of dollars. Others with rare errors or perfect condition have reached prices of over $10,000 or more. Now, you might have seen videos claiming that a 1982 no mint mark penny is worth $1,200, $10,000, or even hundreds of thousands. Let's clear that up. Not every 1982 penny is valuable. In fact, the vast majority, are worth face value. Even mini copper ones only sell for a few dollars unless they have a rare combination or perfect condition. So, what actually makes a 1982 no mint mark penny valuable? It comes down to a few key factors. Is it copper? Is it a small date? Is it in excellent condition? Does it have any mint errors? If the answer to all of these is yes, you might be holding something special. Let's talk about errors. Error coins are like accidents that turn into treasure. Some 1982 pennies were struck incorrectly, off-center, double-stamped, or on the wrong metal. These errors can increase value dramatically. Some error coins have sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars depending on rarity and condition. Now imagine this. You're going through your old coins. Maybe a jar in your house. Maybe coins from your grandparents. Maybe change you never thought twice about. And suddenly, you notice a 1982 penny. No mint mark. You weigh it 3.11 grams. Your heart starts racing. Because at that moment, you realize this might not be just a coin. This might be a hidden piece of history. But before you get too excited, there's one important step: authentication. If you think you have a rare coin, you should never guess its value. Get it checked by professionals. Grading services can confirm if your coin is genuine and determine its true condition. And condition matters more than anything. A coin in perfect condition can be worth hundreds of times more than the same coin in worn condition. Here's another interesting fact. The year 1982 produced 8 different varieties of pennies. Yes, 8. Different metals, different dates, different mint marks. That's why collectors are so fascinated by this year. It's like a puzzle. And every coin is a piece. So why does this matter today? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious and misunderstood coins in American history, the 1984 Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks ordinary. You've probably seen it, maybe even spent it without thinking twice. But hidden behind this simple copper-colored coin is a fascinating story, and in some rare cases, a value that could shock you. Let's uncover the truth. The 1984 Lincoln cent, often called the Liberty 1-cent coin, features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front. This design has been part of American currency since 1909, symbolizing freedom, unity, and history. Now here's where things get interesting. If your coin has no mint mark, that doesn't mean it's an error. In fact, it means the coin was minted in Philadelphia, one of the oldest and most important mints in the United States. In 1984 alone, over 8 billion pennies were produced there. So yes, this coin is incredibly common. But don't lose interest just yet, because within this sea of ordinary coins, a few rare treasures are hiding. Most 1984 pennies found in circulation are only worth their face value, just 1 cent. Even in better condition, many are valued between a few cents and a couple of dollars. But collectors know something the average person doesn't. Certain versions of this coin can be worth far more, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The secret lies in condition, rarity, and most importantly, errors. Let's talk about the biggest one. There's a famous variety known as the double ear error. On this rare coin, Abraham Lincoln appears to have a doubled earlobe, almost like a shadow or second ear just beneath the original. This is caused by a minting mistake known as a double die error, and this tiny detail can make a massive difference. Some of these coins have sold for hundreds of dollars, while high-grade examples have reached thousands at auction. Now imagine finding one of those in your pocket change. That's why collectors carefully inspect every 1984 penny they come across. But that's not the only factor that affects value. Condition plays a huge role. Coins are graded on a scale from poor condition all the way up to mint state perfection. A heavily worn coin might be worth just 1 cent, but a flawless, bright red uncirculated coin could be worth significantly more. In fact, some high-grade 1984 pennies have sold for dozens, hundreds, or even thousands depending on their quality. Color also matters. Collectors use 3 main color categories: brown, and red coins, which retain their original shiny copper appearance, are the most valuable. Brown coins, which have darkened over time, are usually the least valuable. So if you're searching through your coins, keep an eye out for that bright, fresh-looking penny. Now let's address something you may have seen online. You might have heard claims that a 1984 no-mint mark penny is worth $1,200 or more. Is that true? Well, not exactly. A regular 1984 penny with no mint mark is extremely common and typically not worth more than a few cents to a few dollars, even in great condition. However, if your coin has a rare error, exceptional condition, or a unique feature, then yes, it could potentially reach values in the hundreds or even over $1,000. But those cases are rare. Very rare. That's why it's important to know what to look for. Here are a few quick tips. First, check for the double ear. Use a magnifying glass and look closely at Lincoln's earlobe. Second, examine the coin's surface. Does it look shiny and new or worn and dull? Third, look for unusual features, strange lines, doubling in letters, or anything that looks off. But be careful. Today, we're diving deep into the mystery, value, and hidden secrets of the 1993 no-mint mark penny. And by the end of this video, you might be rushing to check your own spare change. Let's begin. The 1993 Lincoln 1-cent coin is part of a long-running series that started in 1909, featuring the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the front. This design has become one of the most recognized coin designs in the world. But what makes the 1993 version interesting isn't just its design, it's what's missing. That's right, the mint mark. Now, many people believe that a coin without a mint mark is rare or an error. But here's the truth: for pennies, no mint mark usually means the coin was made at the Philadelphia Mint. And in 1993, billions of these coins were produced, over 5.6 billion, to be exact. So at first glance, it might seem like there's nothing special about this coin. But this is where things get interesting. While most 1993 no-mint mark pennies are only worth their face value, certain rare versions of this coin have sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. The difference comes down to condition, rarity, and most importantly, errors. Let's talk about condition first. Coins are graded on a scale, and the higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A coin that looks brand new, with no scratches, full shine, and perfect details, is considered mint state. And in extremely high grades like MS-69, a 1993 no-mint mark penny has been known to sell for thousands of dollars at auction. Why? Because finding a coin from 1993 in near-perfect condition is incredibly rare. These coins were made with a zinc core and a thin copper coating, which makes them prone to damage, corrosion, and discoloration over time. So when collectors find one that looks flawless after decades, they are willing to pay a premium. Now let's get to the real treasure, the errors. Error coins are where things go from ordinary to extraordinary. One of the most famous and valuable errors associated with the 1993 penny is the close AM variety. On the reverse side of the coin, look at the word America. On a normal coin, the letters A and M have a noticeable gap between them. But on the rare close AM version, those letters appear almost touching. This small detail can make a huge difference. Collectors have paid hundreds and even over $1,000 for coins with this subtle variation, especially when combined with excellent condition. And that's not the only error to look for. There are also double die errors, where the design appears slightly duplicated, giving the coin a blurry or shadow-like effect. These errors occur during the minting process and are highly sought after by collectors. Then there are off-center strikes, die cracks, and even rare cases where coins were struck on the wrong planchet. Each of these errors adds uniqueness and value. But here's the key point: not every 1993 penny with no mint mark is valuable. In fact, most are only worth about 1 cent to a few cents in circulated condition. So how do you know if yours is worth $1,200 or more? First, check the condition. Is the coin shiny? Does it look almost untouched? If yes, you might have something special. Second, examine the details closely. Use a magnifying glass and inspect the letters, especially America on the back. Look for unusual spacing, doubling, or any irregularities. Third, consider getting your coin graded by a professional service. A certified grade can significantly increase the value of your coin in the eyes of collectors. And finally, do your research. Compare your coin to known valuable examples and stay updated on auction results. Because here's the reality: The coin market is constantly changing. What might be worth a few dollars today could be worth hundreds tomorrow, especially as collectors compete for the best examples. Now let's talk about the big claim. The $1,200 value. Is it possible? Yes, but with conditions. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating story of the 2010 Liberty 1-cent coin with no mint mark, a coin that millions of people overlook every single day. Let's begin. The 2010 penny marks a very special moment in United States coin history. This was the first year the famous Lincoln cent introduced a brand new reverse design, the Union Shield. This design symbolizes unity and strength, representing how President Abraham Lincoln held the nation together during one of its most difficult times. Before 2010, pennies featured the Lincoln Memorial on the back for nearly 50 years. But in 2010, everything changed. The shield design replaced it permanently, making this coin historically important as the beginning of a new era. Now let's talk about the detail that confuses and excites collectors the most: the missing mint mark. If your 2010 penny has no mint mark under the date, it simply means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. This is completely normal. In fact, billions of these coins were made there. Yes, billions. Around 1.9 billion 2010 pennies without mint marks were produced. So here's the truth that many YouTube videos won't tell you clearly. Most 2010 no mint mark pennies are very common. In average circulated condition, they are worth exactly 1 cent even in uncirculated condition, meaning the coin looks brand new. The value usually ranges between 10 cents and 30 cents. So where does the idea of a $1,200 penny come from? This is where things get interesting. While the majority of these coins are common, a very small number of them can be extremely valuable, but only under specific conditions. The first factor is condition, also known as grading. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. The closer a coin is to a perfect grade of 70, the more valuable it becomes. For example, a nearly perfect 2010 penny graded MS69 once sold for over $1,000 at auction. That means a coin that originally cost just 1 cent turned into a 4-figure collectible, simply because of its flawless condition. The second factor is errors. Error coins are where the real treasure lies.